Right. So this is the one that this is where we left at the time. Okay. So we discussed about the competitors, right? So is that critical to understand competitors? Yes, it is. We need to understand competitors because we want to ensure we offer superior value for customers. Okay. The next question that we need to ask is what is the information that we need about our competitors? Any thoughts? What do we need to understand about our competitors?
Lee hearing.
Yep.
We'd like to understand, I guess, what their apparent strategy is. We could look at what they've historically done and what they're broadcasting in the market to see a little bit of an insight there. Yep. I guess it's also important to have a look at the market to keep an eye on emerging threats. So new strategies that it might be new companies, but it also could be a change in strategy from an organisation that wasn't a competitor, but then becomes one. So I think, yeah, the strategy, potentially their market share, the price, I guess your price, product, promotion and place would be a good way to start.
Right. Fantastic. So we want to understand the strategy. All right, fair enough. What else, guys, do we want to know? We want to understand the strategy, our competitor strategy.
I'll be looking at the segment they currently perhaps appeal to, and perhaps the possibility they might move into the segment that your company might be working in.
Fantastic. The segment, the market segment, which segment that they're aiming at. Now, that is a strategic decision that we are making. I'm glad you also mentioned about that, okay? Which market segment that they're aiming, okay? Are they aiming a large market segment or a small one, okay? Look, I believe you all recall a brand named Sensodyne, okay? When it was launched, they understand that the large portion of the market was captured by Colgate-Palmolive. In markets like Australia, Colgate-Palmolive is the market leader in oral care category. Okay, so if they did the same thing, right, it is a smaller guy fighting with the much larger guy, okay, which is quite hard for them to beat, okay. Therefore, they design the strategy differently, okay. They aim at a specific segment at a time, the sensitive tooth, okay. And how they distribute the products? Well, they did not, in the beginning, they did not distribute that through a grocery channel. They hit the dental clinics. Okay, because they are aiming at a different market segment, as you mentioned before. Okay, right, good one, guys. Thanks a lot. So yes, of course, we want to know who they are. Okay, the profile of our competitors, right? Who are our competitors, right? What are they offering? What is their strategy? Which market segment that they're aiming at? Okay. In other words, we want to know everything about our competitors. Okay, we want to know their leaders. We want to know their business process. We want to know their strengths. We want to know their weaknesses. Okay. We want to know their market share. We want to know the volume if we can, okay? So everything, but in your assessment, please don't say everything, because if you say only everything, you're not telling me anything, okay? So please make sure you specify, okay? Now, I have a few things I'd like to share with you tonight, and well, the first thing that this slide here helps us to understand who our competitors are: direct, indirect, and substitutes. Okay. Again, if they are quite close in terms of similarity of strategy to us, then we put them under direct competitors. Okay. If they are not, if they are quite far away, then we put them under indirect. And product substitute is the other product that the customers can purchase to satisfy similar needs. Okay. So to use this template, you can start with understanding what need that your product category satisfy. Okay. Now look, I got a question some time ago from a student. Eddie, my product is a new product category, so I don't have competitors. I say, no way. You will have competitors. All right. Unless your product are competing in, unless you are a monopoly holder like City Water, you will have competitors, okay? Because it is very likely customers have options to meet their need, okay? Now, think about this. Last week, in one of my slides, I have iPad link to iPad launch that Steve Jobs did back in 2010, okay? When he launched that product, Okay. For arguments, look, arguably there were no other tablet computers at that time. They are the only one. Okay, they are the pioneer in that category. Okay, does it mean they did not have competitors? They did have competitors. Okay, in other words, what you need to understand is please differentiate product category and competition. Your competition may be from a different product category, especially if your product category is a new one, like iPad. Okay, so ask yourself what is the product that your customers are using. Okay, what is the product that your customers are using? If your product is not available, they are your competitors. So before iPad was launched, well, what did customers use? Well, customers use laptop, customers use MacBook, customers use that kind of gadgets, desktop. Okay, so they are the competitors. Okay, so now the category has been established. Okay, the tablet computer category has been established. Of course, the ball game is changed. The competition landscape is changed, right? They're looking at the other competitors in the tablet computer, right? In the mini computer, if you like, category. Okay. So, in other words, guys, before you claim that my product category is new, I don't have competitors. Look, ask yourself. If you are the monopoly holder in that category, then yes, you can claim that, like City Water or Sydney Railway. Okay, yes, you are the monopoly holder. You don't have competition. Even in Sydney Railway, you have indirect competitors, right? People can transport themselves differently. Okay, so please differentiate product category and competition. Okay, your competitors may not be from the same product category. Okay, look at Coke. Okay, look at Coke. Who is the largest competitor? Well, probably not Pepsi anymore. It could be bottled water, okay, that cannibalize their volume, okay? Right, so hopefully that gives us a bit of illustration in terms of profiling our competitors, okay? The next thing that we need to understand is, remember, the purpose of analyzing competitor is to understand, okay, whether they offer superior value or not, okay? So what we can do in here is to look at what they're offering. Okay, what they're offering basically revolves around their marketing mix variables. Okay, their product, their price, their placements, their promotion. Okay, so we look at them. Okay, and look, I would recommend you to look at three major competitors in your analysis. Look at the three major competitors, right? Their product, the price, placement, and promotion. What about if the competitors, if one competitor has a range of product? Well, look at a broad range of the product and look at the flagship of the competitor. Okay, they may have one or two flagships that they use to penetrate the market. Okay. Now from that, going forwards, we can also look at this one here in terms of competitor analysis. Here we look at the key success factors of the industry. Okay, what does it take to be successful in this industry? And then we analyze each competitor 1, competitor 2, competitor 3, okay? Example in here includes brand awareness, brand image as what, or distribution network, or access to supplier, local structure, and so on and so forth, or innovation team, and so on and so forth, right? That takes your research on each of the competitor, okay? And then you map them, okay? You map them in terms of whether they are high, low, moderate. Let's say this guy here is quite high in here, but moderate in here, and low in here. Okay, so guys, look, brands or companies are like us. They have a strength and weaknesses as well. So at least if you do this kind of analysis, you must have at least one high and one low at least. Okay, that leads us to understanding what they are good at, what they are not good at. Right? In other words, this list in here, the key success factors in here, basically contain, basically lead us to understand what the competitors are good at, what the competitors are not good at. Okay, so that leads us to the strengths and weaknesses of our competitors. Okay, You populate the information from the previous one, you substantiate it, okay, these guys are good in here, these guys are not good in here, okay, and then you populate that to become strengths and weaknesses of your competitor, okay. Is that okay, guys? Is that confusing?
No, that's all good, thanks.
Right, brilliant. So hopefully that gives you, step-by-step, approach in terms of competitor analysis. Yeah. Right. Let's move on. Okay. Public. Just briefly about public. Public is unique. Okay. They may not be our target market, but we need to manage them because their voice may affect. Remember, the key point when it comes to analyzing market micro-environmental actors is about the value, how they affect the value that we are creating, communicating, and delivering for the customers, right? The voice of the public may affect this, may affect the value that we offer, okay? Therefore, we must manage them, okay? Last year, January 2016, in America, Coke launched a campaign, okay? Basically, the campaign shows, hey guys, you are actually accusing us of spreading sugar and diabetes to the world, but look at the other products, chocolate bars, juice, for instance, lollies, they contain high sugar as well. Okay, what does it tell us? Well, they're managing the public's voice. They're managing the public voice because it is affecting the effectiveness of Coke communicating to the customers. Okay, if you look at carbonated soft drink industry in developed economies, in developed markets, you will find that this category is struggling actually. Right, it is contracting. Okay? They can drive the volume growth through promotional price. Okay? Why is that? Because of the growing health concern. Okay, so yes, that's public. I'm not going to discuss that. The next one is customers. A number of customers in here. Look, for your assessment, I suggest that you focus on consumer market. It doesn't mean that these concepts that we learn is not applicable to business market. It is also applicable to business market, but it may be easier for you to look at consumer market because consumer market, the data in the consumer market, are basically, more feasible or tangible in quote for us rather than a business market. A lot of activities in business market are basically under the surface. Okay. Well, I did a business market, B2B marketing as well in the corporate life. So yeah, look, it's up to you. This is my recommendation for you to focus on a consumer market rather than business market. Okay? Just briefly, consumer market is actually if the consumption is for if the product or service is for individual, household, family consumption, then we talk about consumer market. Whilst business market is actually about consumption for organization, either for production process or for day-to-day usage in the office, like stationery products, for instance. Okay. Right. Any questions about the micro-environmental actors before we move on to the next one? All good? Okay.
Yeah, all good.
The next thing I'd like to discuss is the macro-environmental factors. Right. There are six factors as well. Now, that includes demographic, economic, natural, technological, political, and social, and also cultural environment. Okay, a few things I'd like to highlight in here. Right. The first one is when we analyze macro-environmental forces, please look at the changes. Okay, that affect the business. Okay, look at the changes. What has changed from demographic perspective, for instance, from population perspective? Okay, the density, right? The age, right? In Australia, for instance, we know that Australian population is aging. Okay, that may affect our consumption. Okay, so the impact. Now let's look at the impact, which is the focus of a macro-environmental forces analysis. Okay, the impact can only be positive only, or negative only. It can be both. It can be neutral. If you say the impact of population change in my industry is neutral, well, there are two possibilities in here. First, you have not done enough research, right, to reveal the impact, or there's no impact in that. There's no impact from that factor. So let's move on to the other one. Okay, it could be the lifestyle of the customers that change, right? Especially in chocolate category, for instance, chocolate bar category. Okay, the lifestyle of the customers may affect the consumption. Okay, now in terms of the measure of impact, okay, the impact could be in the format of consumption, increase or decrease. Okay, that will affect sales. Right, that will affect our sales. If the consumption increases, that means our sales revenue is increasing. Okay. The next one is costs, increase or decrease. Okay. If the cost is increasing, that means our profit will be affected. Okay. So the other dimension is both of them. It could be both consumption and also cost. Okay. Guys, in 2010, you may recall that the Labour government in Australia introduced what we call as the carbon tax. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, arguably at the time, a lot of business people, especially small to medium-sized business, shouted at the time, hey, look, our cost is increasing because transportation costs was escalated. Okay, and there are two possibilities if the cost is increasing. Okay, either they pass the cost onto the consumers, or they absorb the costs. If they absorb the cost increase, that means their profit will decrease. Agree? If they pass the cost onto the consumers, what does it mean to volume? Decrease. Right? So they're the type of things that you want to look at in your research. Right? So look at the changes of these factors in here: demographic, economic, and so on and so forth. All right? And look at and then after that, you reveal the impact to your business. Okay. Now, look, I have a bit of example here that I'd like to show you. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Hello.
Yep. Gotcha, Eddie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, look. If you look at that, okay, I have. Let's look at that. Okay, what does it tell us? This is unemployment rate in Australia. What does it tell us?
It's reducing.
Say again, sorry. What does it tell us? What does the graph tell us? This is unemployment rate in Australia.
There's a steady decrease in unemployment.
Brilliant, right? So that's the one that we look at, all right? So it is decreasing. Okay, the unemployment rate is decreasing. Okay, from same period last year 5.8 to 5.4, steady decrease. Right, a bit of hike in here in February, March 5.9, but gradually it is decreasing. Okay, now if unemployment rate is decreasing, okay, what does it mean to consumption?
It may mean that there's more discretionary spending, so consumption might increase.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Okay. If unemployment rate is decreasing, that means consumers, as you mentioned, consumer spending power is good. Okay. If consumer spending power is good, that means they can maintain their lifestyle. Okay. If every week consumers can go to the pub, if we analyze pub and cafe industry, right, we can expect they still come back to us. Right? They still come back to our pub. Okay, spend money with friends, have a few beers and so on and so forth. Right? By the way, I'm not promoting beer, okay, with this. So anyway, so hopefully that gives you an idea, guys, in terms of analyzing macro environmental forces. Right? Use data like this to substantiate your argument. Okay, use data like this, either Australian Bureau of Statistics or trade economics. Trade economics is one of my favorite one to look at when it comes to economic analysis. Okay, or the one I'm going to share with you is the IBIS World Report. Right, look at that kind of thing. Look at these kind of reports, right, in your research to substantiate your argument. Yeah, does it help, guys? Yeah.
Yes. Thanks.
Yes.
Now, I'm not going to discuss this more detail in terms of the concepts. You can go through it yourself. But one thing that I'd like to highlight to you is the pests. Either you use the 6 variables that we discussed before, or you use pests, right? Or you use the acronym PESTLE, or use the acronym STEP. They are the same thing, right? Either the 6 variables that I talk about, or pests, or STEP, PESTLE, they are the same thing. Other one is fine. I accept, any, right? As long as you show to me it is more critical for me to look at the analysis that shows changes, right? Either regulation change that affect us, that affect the costs, that affect the consumption, for instance, right? Or economic change, economic trend by analyzing the indicators, the economic indicators, right? To show changes to changes and also impact to the industry. Okay. Yep.
One question. So, is it 1 year a right time frame to look at the changes?
Wow, that's actually a good question. All right. My recommendation for you is to look at the trend. You can look at, look in terms of timing. I'll leave it to you. 12 months trend is not bad. 12 months trend is not bad. Okay, you look at the trend. Okay. Does it answer your question, Lydia?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Right. Now, this is a list of pests that you can look at, right? Do you have to analyze everything in here? No. All right? Oh, guys, no, don't do that, all right? Because probably not everything in here will affect your industry, all right? If they don't affect your industry, don't do it, okay? You may want to pick up 2 from politics to show positive, negative, another 2, 3 from economic to show a positive impact, negative impact. The same thing for social, the same thing for technological. Okay, this is a laundry list, but I'm not expecting you to analyze everything in here, just the major ones. Okay, that gives you the positive and negative impact. Okay, so when we say it is enough, well, look, if you have strong positive and strong negative, then yes, you can claim, yes, you have done enough research. Okay, now the strong positive in here will be related to your opportunity in your SWOT analysis. The negative impact will go under your threat in your SWOT analysis. All right. Now, one of the key characteristics of a strategy is one impact thinking. Starting from the environmental analysis, the external environment, we link that to the internal environment in our SWOT analysis. All right. So you got to show that your past are related to your SWOT analysis, for instance. Okay. So when you analyze your past, you get the positive and negative, right? And then you analyze SWOT under opportunities and threats. You got something else. Hang on a second. You need to go back to your past. There may be something that you have overlooked. Okay, you go back there, you go back up there. Well, okay, probably I haven't researched that one because suddenly I thought this is an opportunity for us. Okay, so you go back up there. Okay, right. So the purpose is again to review what, how they change and how they impact the business. Okay, how they impact the organizations, how they impact the industry, how they impact the consumption. Okay, the outcome would be opportunities and threats. Okay. Part of SWOT analysis. Okay. Right. Any questions before we move on to SWOT?
No, thank you.
All right, brilliant. Now, look, SWOT is a strategic fit analysis between internal and external environments. Right. In other words, it is actually asking the company whether they have what it takes to compete to manage the external, the changing external environment. Okay, as internal, strengths and weaknesses basically are part of the asset, capability, or resource of the organization. Okay, strength reflects what asset that they have. Weakness reflects what asset that they are missing in the competition. Okay, now if you look at that. Okay, I have populated number of sources of assets in the next slide, but briefly, examples of asset include brand. Okay, the one that we discussed before, brand equity, for instance. Okay, like brand awareness, brand image, image as innovative. If we talk about Apple guy, for instance, they may be perceived as being innovative. Okay, because they bring breakthrough technologies to the market so far. Okay, that's part of the brand equity. Okay, so when they announce, hey guys, I'm going to launch iPhone 10, for instance, iPhone 8, for instance, last year. Okay, on 16th of September 2016, and 2 days before that, people lined up in front of the store. Okay, some people even paid the other guys to queue on their behalf. Okay, human resources, another type of assets, right? If you have strong talent, strong team, strong marketing team, strong sales team that who can negotiate with the customers, that's fantastic. Okay, that's an asset for us. Okay, if you have strong financial resources, okay, that's fantastic. Okay, the other one is business process experience. Okay, if you have been in the market for 50 years, 100 years, right? That gives us experience in managing the business. Okay, business process, management capability. Okay, we have strong leadership team, we have strong management capability. Okay, to navigate the business. Okay, therefore, it was one of the things that people consider when Steve Jobs was still around at Apple. Okay, he had strong innovation skills as well as the management capability. Therefore, when he announced he was terminally ill, then Apple share price at that time was dipped a little bit. Okay, because they think the investors thought at the time, well, they may lose these assets. Okay, right. So there's some examples of assets. Okay, so in other words, you actually, for this organization, okay, for your case study, the chocolate company, look at the most appropriate ones considering these assets. Okay, I'll leave it to your analysis. Okay. Now again, opportunities and threats are from environment. Okay, so it is not trend. It is stable trend basically. Okay. You are talking about favorable past for opportunity, and threat, you talk about unfavorable past plus competitors, either current competitors and future competitors, right? If you anticipate in your industry there may be new players coming from overseas, then they are your future competitor. Okay, right. So this is basically showing you the assets I've populated. Okay, you can look at the customer-based assets. Okay, such as network to customers. Okay, country of origin or network to suppliers. Okay, access to suppliers, access to markets, for instance, patent. Okay, for pharmaceutical industry, if you have the patent, you develop that, you spend a lot of money in your R&D, and you register that as a patent, that is fantastic because no one else can use your formula. Okay, the technology, right, or license that you have. Okay, they are part of the organizational assets. Okay, that can be your strength or weakness. In other words, for your case study, you need to revisit this, right? You map them, whether this one goes to asset, this one goes to strength, this one goes to weakness. Okay. This one is actually just briefly, guys, showing you the relationship between strength and also the performance. Okay, so we expect that to have a superior, let's say, our strength is superior skills or superior resources. Okay, and potential deliverables could be superior customer value or lower relative cost, including low cost. Structure. If our organization has local structure, that's fantastic because we can generate strong market share because we can penetrate the market quite deep, basically. Right, and the other one is that could also generate customer satisfaction and customer loyalty because of the superior resources such as brand or innovation skill. Okay. So hopefully that gives you a bit of illustration in terms of understanding the strength. Basically helps us build a competitive advantage. Okay. All right. Any questions, guys? Hello?
No, all good.
All good?
All good.
All right. Look, if you don't have any questions, let's stop there. Okay. In the next session, I'd like to discuss the strategic marketing. Okay. And next week we are going to discuss marketing research and consumer behavior. Okay. So last week we briefly discussed about customer-driven marketing strategy, and we will elaborate that. Okay. Look, my recommendation is whatever you do in your role, please understand the core strategy of your business or core strategy of marketing. Okay, and that's one that we are going to discuss in the next session, this Thursday. Okay. All right, guys. Any questions about the assessment, about the timetable? Everything's good.
So the next webinar is this Thursday?
Yep, this Thursday, yes. You
Okay.
have the timetable, yeah?
Yes, I've got it.
Brilliant. Okay. And this Thursday we are going to discuss the this one here, the strategic marketing.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. All good.
Sounds good, Eddie. Thanks very much.
Right. Brilliant. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys. See you
Cheers.
in the next session. Okay.
Cheers.
Thank you,
Bye.
Eddie.
Yeah.